Indo-Pacific. Okay, well, we are now turning to a very special segment for which we are already being joined by a sitting Union Minister of the Government of Bharat to speak about Next in Science. In our next segment, we are very privileged to have with us Union Minister of Bharat for PMO, Department of Space and Atomic Energy, Dr. Jitendra Singh. Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, welcome. Thank you very much for being with us at NXT 2026. We will, of course, be speaking about Next in Science. The session will be moderated by Editor-in-Chief of NewsX, Rishabh Gulati. Also moderating this session will be Senior Executive Editor of NewsX, Megha Sharma. So I, of course, hand the floor over to you, Rishabh and Megha.
Thank you. And at the outset, I must appreciate our heartfelt thanks and appreciation. Dr. Jitendra Singh is a person who understands where this country is going under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, and the true practical, important necessity of finding solutions for Indian problems the Indian way. So much progress is being made, so much interesting things are happening, and so many of the scientific departments doing them are, of course, in the ministries that he leads. Dr. Jitendra Singh, welcome back to NXT 2026. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, you know, we have the astronauts with us, and there's so much to talk about on the space sector, but you handle so many things, interesting developments, which not only our Indian audience, but our international audience must know about. In a practical sense, we have seen so many developments taking place in genetics, in genetic cures, treatments, preventative healthcare. Can you give us an understanding of the very exciting opportunities and research being done in India?
At the outset, thank you, Rishabh. Thank you for this opportunity, and also I must compliment you for the second consecutive conclave, which is unique of its kind. I think you've introduced a new concept in organizing such meets, and it's earned a very spontaneous popularity among the stakeholders, so which is quite visible. So I have to compliment you before I say anything more. Now, having said that, as you rightly mentioned in your opening remarks, Indian solutions for Indian problems, Indian data for Indian interventions, and relating to the question that you have put across, Indian treatment for Indian patients. And when we look at genes, of course, India has a huge genetic pool. We have about 4,000 to 5,000 distinct communities living in a single peninsula. Of course, we don't have the racial breakup in the census, but the last racial breakup was done sometimes the early 20th century during the British time. So they also identified 6 different races. So it's such a wide pool to gather data from. And this is an interesting phase from the point of view of genetics, from the point of view of the futuristic tools and futuristic options of medicine. And I, for one, feel particularly gratified on 2 accounts. A, professionally, being a medico, I think I belong to a generation which has seen this transition happening. Transition in the sense that when we were undergraduates, India was beset with the issue of infections, tropical diseases, and the dictum our seniors told us was, if you read syphilis, you read medicine, which means it would affect every other organ. By the time we were into post-graduation doing our MD, etc., the dictum became, if you write diabetes, you read medicine. But now, particularly post-COVID, we are beset. Now we are confronted with both. We have non-communicable disease, we have communicable disease as well. And there's so much to read and so much to learn, but luckily you have the AI tools to assist you. And now we are seeing the next transition to the next phase of medicine and the medical practices, the medical solutions, which I would say would be largely, if you try to describe it in a single sentence in technical terms, it is going to be an age of multi-omics. You will have genomics, you will have transcriptomics, you have proteomics. And when they integrate, they enable you to study the disease processes, also to determine the appropriate interventions at the appropriate time, even before the clinical symptoms have appeared. So this is going to be a huge breakthrough the world over. And I have coined for myself a single line definition for this. Tomorrow's medicine is going to be A, personalized medicine, B, precision medicine, and C, prescription for me. In the sense that there are 3 patients of diabetes having a similar clinical profile, but you might require to have 3 different prescriptions depending on the genetic profile, depending on the environmental factors, the lifestyle. But what is heartening is that India is already into it. And thanks very much to Prime Minister Modi, because he has enabled us, because the Department of Biotechnology also with which I am associated, we are among the first in the world to have rolled out an exclusive dedicated policy called BioE3, which in other words means biotechnology for economy, for employment, and for environment. So, and now into genes, we have different sets of programs. We have Genome India, we have Phenome India. You'll be glad to know we have already finished sequencing 10,000 Indian individuals drawn from different races, different communities. Our initial target is 1 million. We have already qualified in coming out as a preventive healthcare provider, for instance, and that gives me a particular gratification because India was never taken seriously for its healthcare practices. Even if somebody felt sick, they waited for 3-4 days for the divine blessing to happen. So if the patient survives, they would say Maa ka Ashirwad. If it doesn't survive, they would say Pichle Janam ka karma. So they had their homemade placebos. But here we have now, we came out with the first ever DNA vaccine for COVID. Again, it was genetically driven. We have come out with a papillovirus vaccine, which is useful in cervical cancer prevention. And a host of other vaccines now they are in the pipeline, with malaria, tuberculosis. So a country never taken seriously for even curative healthcare is now being hailed as a global leader in preventive healthcare. A. Secondly, if you talk of our success stories, I'll just cite 1 or 2. One of them is hemophilia. We've already come out with a successful trial of therapeutic cure through genetic means of hemophilia, which is a bleeding disorder caused by the deficiency of clotting factor 8. Now, Prime Minister has hugely inspired our research works with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Vishwabandhu, and I think all those mantras are incorporated in this. I'll tell you how. Hemophilia is a disease which was first reported from Great Britain. And it is said that one of the first victims was a cousin of Queen Victoria. So for a long time in the 19th century, also the early 20th century, it was also known as Queen's disease. But the remedy has come from tropics. Remedy has come from India. Similarly, sickle cell disease. I'm glad that is also our CSIR institute, whereas this one is from biotechnology. So and we are deeply into this. We have also now gone into space medicine. I think we are among the first in the world who have signed a proper MOU of the space with biotechnology, that is A, of the space department with AIMS Delhi. And I can see Suhanshu sitting there where he went up, the 6 sets of experiment which were carried by him. 2 of them were dedicated primarily to life sciences, the study of myogenesis in the space because it is zero fact. And that will be applicable not only for the future astronauts, also for those who, for many of the other conditions as well, because when you have a fracture also and you stay immobilized for a couple of weeks, you then have to go through physiotherapy. So how does all these mechanisms work of myogenesis? Then the other set of experiments was also very contemporary. The cognitive effects possibly happening as a result of the continuous watching of electronic gadgets. So we are, unlike in the IT sector, where we were lacking about 1.5 decades back. For example, if TV happened in America in the 1950s, here in the capital city, we got to see our first Chitrahar in 1970. But it's no longer so now. In many ways, we are ahead as far as our genetic breakthroughs are concerned and our futuristic medicine solutions are concerned. We have also emerged as among the top nations in biomanufacturing. Only in this budget, and I'm glad, as I mentioned, Prime Minister Modi gives such a huge priority. In this budget also, we had a dedicated mission announced called Biopharma Shakti, with a dedicated 10,000 crore to begin with. So we are already ranking number 3 in Indo-Pacific as far as biofacturing is concerned. We rank about 12 or 13 across the world. And we have emerged as a cost-effective standard healthcare destination in the world. And we are already into the futuristic modes, which will be, of course, the treatment of disease before the disease happens. intervention at the genetic level before the gene starts misbehaving. So all these things we are already quite deeply into this.
Yeah, I also had one question to ask you about Prime Minister and the emphasis that he lays on the life sciences and biofoundries as major future job creators. What industries do you think will emerge out of this?
Yeah, certainly. And it has been because of the Prime Minister's patronage and Prime Minister Modi's personal interest and his intervention that we have now a biofoundry grid. We have dedicated biofoundries across the country. We have also now coming up with bio nest incubators, which means biotechnology or bio nest for nurturing and scaling of technology through biotechnology. Means because the considered view the world over is that the next industrial revolution is going to be biotechnology driven, like the earlier one, the last one, which was IT driven. But when that happens, as I was saying a few months back, we would not be lagging behind. We are already into this. We might be leading that biotechnology-driven IT revolution. So it'll be based on there's going to be a paradigm shift even in the economy, from the earlier manufacturing sectors to the regenerative processes, to the genetic processes, to the recycling process, and there also from waste to wealth, we are way ahead of other countries. We have even in our science programs, we are now turning even the hospital waste into some useful commodity, and so I think, and they are mostly now genetically driven and also sometimes chemically driven. So as Prime Minister rightly points out, that is in keeping with the global trends. And one good thing that has happened after 2014, after the present government took over, is that now we are now following the global benchmarks. We are no longer satisfied by saying, look, I am better than you or you. So our benchmarks are global, our parameters are global, and our strategies are also global. So if we have to determine a sustainable global role for ourselves, and that was the global leaders, I think, and the world is looking up to us for cues. Yes. Like, as I said, in the case of vaccines, we have a whole queue of vaccines lined up, which will be happening in very near future.
Yeah.
So, sir, as you're aware, sir, our foundation is now running one of the world's largest breast cancer screening mission, which is, you mentioned, also on the diagnostic side when we're talking about Bioshakti, on the diagnostic side, because some, of course, of these diseases, in this case cancer, breast cancer is treatable as long as it's caught in a reasonable amount of time. But also then you have access that, yes, all the big hospitals have the mammography, but the technology which is emerging from thermal imaging that uses AI models that are trained on Indian patients, that can be taken in an ambulance to the villages where it's no touch, no radiation. How important is it to take this diagnostic capacity, like the breast cancer screening mission, which we're calling Namo Shakti, to the people on the ground, to their doorsteps?
No, I'm glad you asked that. You're very right. Just adding to what you said and agreeing very much with what you said. At the outset, I have to compliment you for having made the Guinness Book record for.
Yeah, to Aishwarya ji, I think, is here, and Kartik ji, yes.
Yeah, so compliments to Kartik ji also for having screened more than 5,000 breast for breast cancer, 5,000 patients for not patients. That will not be fair. 5,000 subjects. Yes. For breast cancer, and having found about 2 to 3% new detections as well. So that's a huge service to the society as well, and also I think an inspiration for others to follow. Now, having said that, of course, if you detect earlier, now of late there's also a category of cancers which is now being classified as curable cancers, and breast cancer is one of them. So you do a huge service when you detect some of these cancers early. But again, as we were discussing in response to the earlier question, when we are into the genetic medicine, of course, which will be aided by AI, you rightly mentioned, because otherwise the process are very long, tedious. So AI driven, machine learning driven, that will be that will be helpful in creating a digital platform or a digital ecosystem of health solutions for the future, where given by the screening processes, driven by the genetic methods, we may not even have to wait for the first symptom to appear. So that is going to be very fascinating. So I mean, it's going to be very fascinating times going to happen for medicine and also for the practitioners of medicine. So when you detect something imminently happening or potentially happening at the gene level, you can pick it up even before the symptom has appeared. A. B. You can also intervene before it starts troubling. So we are now actually going to move into the next phase of this through multiomics and all these processes. And of course, AI is going to be a huge, huge enabler. Like, for example, it's very difficult to do the sequencing of the individuals in a very given time span or something like, or even through the usual methods. But AI makes the task far more easier. Even for usual cultures, which earlier took several days, now it's just within a few minutes. So I think, and that's going to be applicable even in plants, in agriculture, though we are not discussing that part. But
Yes.
what I'm trying to say is that biotechnology and these phenomena are going to revolutionize the entire concept and the entire understanding of how things happen.
Right. I also want to get your perspective. We just spoke about a while ago that there are 100 members of parliament from all across the globe, different continents, that have participated in the NXT forum. What would you hope that these parliamentarians forum works on in terms of global cooperation?
No, I'm sure they'll go back enriched from India, because India has so much to offer, which is not there. In fact, a few years back, till in the pre-COVID times, I think in the till about 10-15 years back, we used to get interns at AIIMS, New Delhi, from UK to study tropical disease. They would be posted in the tuberculosis ward, in leprosy ward, because they don't get to see all that over there. So when we are talking of life sciences, we have a huge, huge pool to do research with it, to also study. In fact, the other day there was a group of young medicos from one of the European countries. They just came to look me up and they said, we want to seek your guidance on what disease project should be undertaken. I said, you name a disease and I'll give you one. So India is a great, research lab for any subject. And I must compliment you for having constituted this forum of parliamentarians, which I was trying to go through, represent, I think, 3 or 4 continents. So I'm sure when they go back home, they'll be able to enrich their natives also from what they have picked up from India, the inputs that they have picked up from the subcontinent, and they would also be able to share this with their fellow parliamentarians in the house which they represent. So I think this is a great, great initiative and unique of its kind.
That's an excellent idea. I know our time is limited and we have a lot of representatives to speak on the space sector. So before I let you go, sir, one last subject I want to touch upon. Yes.
1 second. Just to add to what your first question, when you were talking of cancers, I also wish to add that very recently we come out with the Shanti Act.
Yes, I was about to ask you.
Okay.
So there is, in the nuclear sciences, which has a bearing on cancer studies as well. Of course, the Shanti Act, which is, opening India's nuclear sector to the private space, that has a correlation connection to small modular reactors, power generations. So the nuclear field emerging in India, can you tell us a bit about the Shanti Act and what its intention is?
No, I think it's something, it's a huge, huge breakthrough, something which nobody had even imagined till a few years ago, that India will open up its nuclear sector to private players. And I think the compliment and the credit goes to Prime Minister Modi, because he has the courage of conviction to break the taboos of the past, to take out-of-box decisions. Even the stakeholders never expected, even the private partners never expected that tomorrow they'll be expected to come forward and participate in our nuclear-related ventures. And there are very few countries in the world which have done so. So, through this act, as you rightly mentioned, the private sector, or shall I say in a larger sense, the non-government players will also be able to become partners, or as on their own indulge in setting up nuclear plants. But related to the questions that we were discussing earlier, one aspect which has gone slightly underreported in the media as far as the Shanti Act is concerned, that even the research in nuclear medicine has been opened up to the private players. We have a huge, huge human resource. We have no dearth of talent. If we see the kind of research which is happening in Tata Memorial Center, the Cancer Center in Mumbai, or the Adyar Center in Chennai, it's amazing. And the Tata Center has recently come out with a remedy, again, nuclear medicine driven remedy for acute lymphoid leukemia, which is a sort of a blood cancer for children, which is quite fatal. The mortality is very high. So that's a huge breakthrough. But of course, the constraint is that of the funds. So once we are opening up to the private players and we have a larger collaboration of the public-private sector, our capacities of conducting nuclear medicine research, particularly in relation to cancers and other diseases, is also going to scale up. They've also come out with a possible remedy for fatty liver, which is rampant in India now. Every third patient reporting in the hospital is said to be having fatty liver, just as till a few years ago it was said every third or fourth patient reporting in the hospital for any other symptom also has an underlying diabetes. So when we have the private involvement as well, we are suddenly going to scale up in a quantum leap.
It is exciting. So nuclear medicine, biosimilars, genetics, nuclear sector in terms of small modular reactors, where India has opened up to majority private investment from abroad for the first time in its history.
And there I'll also use this opportunity to clear this kind of a myth or sometimes misconception happening in certain sections. They say, if you open up the nuclear sector, then what for us? It is only for big houses. You must have seen the media reporting, even naming some houses. This has been opened up for that house, that house. It's not so. As you are rightly mentioning, when you have small modular reactors, when you have small reactors, you can have smaller players as well. They can form a group of startups, they can form a group of entrepreneurs, they can start a company, they can partner with the government. Government is giving them all the support, technology, technical as well as the financial support. We have now also recently floated RDI fund, 1 lakh crore, to accelerate the private sector. So, and the liability slab has also been, divided depending upon the capacity of the reactor that you intend to set up. For a smaller reactor, the liability may be just 1,000 crore of rupees. For the larger one, larger. So it's not that the nuclear sector, if it's open up for private players, only the top big houses within the country or outside are going to benefit for it. It's going to be a huge source of employment, shall I say, or huge source of livelihood even for others.
Yes, so the rationalization of the liability clause, which was a major impediment in the past for investment, which we haven't seen in 15 years in the nuclear sector. Dr. Jitendra Singh, we can have a conversation on so many subjects, but as always, sir, thank you for,
thank you very much.
India's
thank you very
story.
much. And it's very fascinating discussing these futuristic themes. Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure was all ours. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, thank you very much for your time.